Hello and welcome back to another episode. Now today it is Monday morning, and it's just gone 9 o'clock, and I have a fairly busy work week ahead of me. In fact, I have a fairly busy work fortnight ahead of me. But I really wanted to sneak in a little video about comic books this morning. That's what I really want to do today. So I figured I'd just shove it in at the beginning of the week. But really, at the top of my agenda right now, at the tippy top, the front of my mind right now is how irritated my face is. Sadly, this allergy just keeps on coming back. I'm still trying to tie down the cause of it. But if you can put up with the face, I can put up with it for the duration of this video. But yeah, that's irritating is the word. It's just sort of itching, and I'll have to go and get some sort of cream or something. Anyway, let's dive in. Before we look at the comics, I want to take a look at a couple of figurines that I got recently from a store called B&M. These are so-called Q-Fig figurines, and they're quite funky. This is obviously Doctor Strange. I like the sculpt on him, the individual fingers there, the sort of the general style, like a cross between Cumberbatch, the comics, and something a bit more cutesy, I suppose. The see-through magic circle, I quite like that, the incantation he's got going. And this here is Harley Quinn and one of the laughing hyenas. Both, again, lovely sculptures. And this one actually comes with a little removable speech bubble that you can change. You can take off that decal that says "Hi Puddin" and write your own message. And I very much appreciate these. And together they cost me $3.98. So $1.99, no, yeah, $1.99 each from a local store called B&M. And on the box it says Loot Crate, exclusive to Loot Crate. And so I presume that this is Loot Crate spillover stock, so stuff that maybe they had left over from previous Loot Crates or something that they're selling on to B&M to sell as a third party. But either way, I don't mind. These are fairly good quality sculpts for a fairly low price. And actually, I recently past few months, picked up a Deadpool with an explosion going off behind him for the same sort of price, in the same sort of style. So nice little sculptures for very little money. I figured I'd let you know about that. If you have a B&M nearby, why not check it out? Anyway, moving on to the comics. The reason why I wanted to make this video in the first place, and starting with a very special little store. I came across a place called Carsons Bazaar back around Christmas time. The in-laws were staying with us, and we were meandering through town, and there in Wallsend, not even in Newcastle, in Wallsend, in the undercover market, the indoor market, was this place here. And it's only a couple of booths in that market, but I couldn't be more excited to have a comic book store on my doorstep. They haven't asked me to mention them, but I figured that they really deserve a bit of a shout out, because Carsons Bazaar is the comic book store for you, in so much as if you like comics and you like getting up-to-date runs of comics, and you don't want to have to go to say the Forbidden Planet, a big chain for example, then places like this are simply amazing. And I was drawn to the character Carson. Who's Carson? I imagine he was an alien who's landed to sell us pop culture, as it were, a business opportunity. But actually, apparently, Carson, in theory, landed or crash landed outside of Comic-Con. That's the idea. And his first exposure to humanity was in the form of people dressed in various costumes, anime characters, aliens themselves, or even the xenomorph. And so he didn't stand out at all. And so all his first introduction to humanity was lovely people being very friendly, taking photographs and sharing pop culture. And so Carson got involved in the trade, and I love that idea as well. So yeah, the mythology behind Carson is magnificent. So Carsons Bazaar, fantastic shop, good little website. Obviously they have lots of things like pop figurines and related memorabilia as well, and they also have a pretty good points system, like a loyalty system. You can sort of build up points with them with purchases. So yeah, that's my little plug out of the way. But recently, from Carson, as it were, I purchased this item here for £4.50, the Crow Memento Mori. This is the first in a 6-issue run of a Crow story arc, coming from IDW Publishing, who I've recently really got into. You may recall I recently talked about the Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover. That was from IDW and DC, and in this instance IDW are taking on the Crow. And you may recall, I mean, if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you'll know I had a near religious experience, or fuck it, I had a religious experience with the Crow movie. Okay. And I went and found the James O'Barr special edition of The Crow with the extra artwork and that wonderful introduction that he wrote at the beginning. And so this, of course, grabbed my attention when I saw it on the Carsons Bazaar shelf. It is not, though, linked to the original Crow story. The protagonist isn't there. James O'Barr, the artist, isn't doing this, but the mythology is the connection. And in this instance, the revenge is being offered to, sadly, the victim of a terrorist attack in Rome. Someone drives a truck through a crowd, and the Crow visits one of the dead, who is an altar boy, and seemingly a fairly religious guy, who then goes on this very satisfying revenge arc. And this is the variant B cover. This isn't the standard cover for issue 1, but I liked this variant, so I figured I'd pick it up. But I won't get the other 5 copies. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this to come out as a collected volume. Supposedly that's the plan. It's going to come out as a book, so I'm going to get hold of the book, I think. But this is just a beautiful bit of artwork anyway, but also a wonderful reimagination, reinvigoration, revisitation of the Crow. I very much I'm enjoying it. It's great. I also, as well, for £1, picked up this from Carson, and that is Dungeons & Dragons Shadows of the Vampire. Now this, I don't think it is actually connected to, or it might be actually. I have to look into it. But this reminded me very much of a D&D story called The Fall that I read from the library a wee while ago, and I wanted just to see if, just to get back into that world, because I very much appreciate how when D&D is done properly in comics, the characters talk to each other like players talk to each other when they're playing D&D. In other words, they're not in a medieval world, they're in D&D. And so a good D&D adventure in comic form is always a good thing, I think. And along with those, the lovely guys at Carsons Bazaar threw in a couple of free copies of the Game Trade magazine. I think they had some leftover issues lying around. But I love me some modelling, I love me some painting, and I love me some information on upcoming, RPGs and card games that I might want to get into. So Carsons Bazaar, guys, Carsons Bazaar. A few days ago, a very special book arrived in the post, and I did feature this book in my microscope video, and that is Wolverine Weapon X. I have wanted this for a long time, and it's not the most expensive book in the world. I simply always had other things I had to spend money on whenever I looked at my Amazon wish list and went, oh. So here we go, Wolverine Weapon X. It's a beautifully graphic, grim, violent story, and as I hinted at with the microscope, it's hard to find artwork to point the microscope at that doesn't involve tremendous and gratuitous violence. I don't mind that at all, but I just didn't want to say microscoping on some of that violence on the day. And I've always wanted to read this in its comic book form, because obviously I've seen, for example, the 90s cartoon origin of Wolverine, which he sort of had that headset on, and I think that was also referenced in the X-Men Apocalypse movie. But I wanted to see how the cartoon related to the comic, and it seems it's a very loose relationship, and I like that actually. I like that Wolverine is born violently, there you go. You see, look, there you go, the thing on the head. That's the thing I always remember from the cartoon when they showed this story. So yep, I love it. I love the artwork. I love the character. I'm so happy I have this book. It's great. Something else that arrived recently from Amazon was this Star Wars Dark Times Volume 1. And I recently came across Volume 2 in a local Oxfam charity bookstore. And I was intrigued by this period of history. This is sort of the early Empire, when the Empire is very much on the rise. And Dark Times is based on a quote, or the quote, from Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars movie. For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic, before the Dark Times, before the Empire. And that's really where it goes from me. So they quote that in the beginning of every volume. And it's a good. I like it. It ties in elements of the prequels. You have some of Anakin reflecting on some of the things he did, for example, in those movies. But also, frankly, it expands the Star Wars universe. Certainly for me, quite a lot. There are characters and creatures in here that I don't think you'd ever dare show in a movie. So like there are, I don't know if you can see that, but basically sort of animals, more or less, what look like lions and rats, people, and this kind of thing. That means that the Star Wars universe can live and breathe in comic form in a broader, more creature-driven way than perhaps they sometimes do in the movies. So yeah, I'm liking that. That's good. Now, a couple of days ago, on my last actual day off, I was meandering through Newcastle and saw that the market was in town, the European travelling market set up in town, and so I wanted to have a look around with my lovely wife. So I figured I would wait for her to finish work and we'd take a look around. And so I had an hour or two to kill, and I didn't want to spoil the market for myself. So I went to a little shop called Recent Relics and picked up this. This is Batman Grendel, and it's a story that I kept on going in and seeing this on his shelf and not wanting to get it because it's only volume 1. He didn't have the rest of this story, but the artwork kind of intrigued me. It looks kind of like Batman Year One-ish. They're trying to invoke that sort of stuff. It's got a bit of an Art Deco kind of sensibility to the whole thing, and it has a lovely sort of texture, this publication. So I figured I'd give it a go, and for a couple of pounds, it helped me while away the time with a coffee. And it's okay. It's an okay story, and I probably will at some point get the follow-on. Not the best Batman story, but it's okay. And finally, over the weekend, I found myself once again in Wallsend, in the Forum Shopping Centre, where another comic and geek toy store type thing has opened up in recent months. I couldn't be more excited that all this stuff is happening on my doorstep. But this guy is a bit different from Carson and Carsons Bazaar, in so much as he specialises in used and vintage memorabilia, toys and comics. So lots of stuff from episode 1, for example, Back to the Future, Transformers, slightly more esoteric stuff, some classic Tonka and this kind of toy cars, but also, crucially, boxes and boxes of comics. And I came across a few items that I just couldn't resist. I've talked in the past about how I like to try and get collected volumes, because I don't like just getting comic after comic after comic, because I just don't have the room. I'm going to end up being crushed by a pile of comics one day. But these I couldn't resist. Starting with this from 1992, I believe, and that is Spider-Man Holiday Special 30th Anniversary Special. It comes with a giant poster in the middle, which is still in there, I'm happy to say. I don't quite know what the poster is because I haven't unfolded it or taken it out. Do I dare? Of course I dare. I will at some point. But it's great. It's some of my favourite style of Spider-Man artwork, that 90s type stuff. But crucially, in this story, at least at the beginning, Spidey goes up against Wolverine. And one of my favourite little drawings of Wolverine I've seen in quite a while is in here. Look at that. Come to Papa. So, yep, I couldn't resist that for £1. Well worth it. I simply had to get these 4 issues here of Batman. Volume 2, numbers 3, 4, 5 and 6. These are Fleetway limited editions, so sort of large format comics where the art is just a little bit bigger than what you get elsewhere. And these 4 volumes, these 4 numbers in Volume 2 comprise the story arc of Batman Year 2. Still my favourite contained Batman story, because it's the first one that I really understood Batman and Bruce Wayne and his, some of the darkness of his crusade and his commitment that he's made in his life to fight crime. And I couldn't resist this. I simply couldn't, not least because it has in large format my favourite drawing of Batman, and that is at the end of this volume here. And this is a drawing that I used to draw over and over and over again when I was a kid, and that is this one here. Batman swinging off into the night. I can always find my way in the dark, he says. I love it, and it's just so big. So yeah, £1 each for those. Simply had to get them. I also picked up a couple of items out of curiosity. One of them was The Complete Spider-Man, February 1992. And it says on it, Spidey dies. And I was like, God, I need to see that. Seems to involve Venom somehow, so I'm looking forward to reading this. It's also a good sized comic as well. It's got like, 100 pages? It's that's a really nice thick comic. I like that. And finally, genuinely a bit of fun, the Batman animated series collected edition volume 2 summer special. So basically it's a whole load of puzzles and word searches and things, a couple of stories thrown in, and it's still got the pencil strapped to the outside, the Batman pencil, which yes, I'm going to use. So there you go, some recent comic pickups, and I'm like a kid in a candy store at the moment. The fact that some of these stores are opening up on my doorstep is a bit dangerous for the wallet, although I have to say the prices are amazing. But crucially, it's such a luxury. As I say, compared to what it was like growing up and having the scant access to the occasional comic, now I can come across some real gems and just indulge reading these amazing stories. Anyway guys, as ever, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.